Hey, Coach.
How we doing?
Good, you?
Doing great. Doing great. Obviously, a phenomenal weekend. Really exciting. I don't know how you can be a fan or a prospect or anyone right now and not want to be a part and around what's going on in Oregon football. Our fans made such an impact on Saturday, starting with game day, being there early, being able to carry that over to a primetime game. And obviously an elite experience there in that stadium. I have not been a part. I've been in some great stadium environments, and that's one of the best stadium environments I've ever been in my career. So, a lot of fun for our players. Fun to see our players have that success. But we enjoyed it on Saturday, and we're ready to move on now and attack our weaknesses and try to make them strengths as we move forward to play Cal this week.
And lead off Rob Mosley.
To that point, one of the spoils of victory is a lot of kudos, a lot of compliments. Just how have you guys done processing all that and moving on from it in the last 48 hours?
Yeah, we don't concern our opinion, with the opinions of others, right? Our focus has always been within. And today we went to the doctor and we saw a lot of things we can get better at, right? Some people texted me the morning after the game and said, "How do you feel after that win?" And I said, "Well, I just watched the film, so I've got some concerns, right? There's a lot of stuff that we got to fix, a lot of stuff that we can get better." The piece that I'm excited about is I think consistently every single week we've improved, right? Really across the board, and we got to continue to improve as we move forward.
Right, Zach?
Ryan Addison is someone who's really kind of coming into his own on the defense and really finding his spot there. After watching the film, what do you think is he's doing now that's really allowed him to establish himself there?
He's got range. We talked about it this morning as we went back and evaluated some of those things. This guy can cover sideline to sideline. Obviously having that receiving background allowed him to come down with the ball there at the end of the game. But he's getting his hands on a lot of balls, and he gets guys down when it comes to tackling, and that's showing up.
Second row, left, Eric.
We didn't get a chance to ask you about the end of game offensive sequence of taking the knee and then throwing it through the back of the end zone. What went into those decisions?
Yeah, we work situations like that every single Friday, right? For us, it wasn't about trying to go get another score; it's just making sure the ball doesn't go back to our opponent. You talk about things that I can do better. It should have been more of a slow knee, right? You take a slow knee, you can run a little bit more time off. We've worked the air ball situation we did the very last play with as much as 10 seconds in practice. It was 13. It's a little longer than you really want to work. But that's the kind of situation where hey, I don't want to punt. I don't want to get the ball back to the opponent. We want to use all the time on the clock. But that was a really cool, for us at least, situational, play where you see so often, even in the NFL, where backs break out in the open and they try to go score a touchdown, right? And then what do? They create an opportunity for another team to go back, score, onside kick, right? All those things, you open up Pandora's box. So we knew it was a drop alert situation. If we got a first down, we wanted to go down. We could have done a better job operating with a slow knee rather than a victory as fast as we did, but then have the air ball to finish is a good sequence of play for us.
Front left, James.
In an area to improve, where does the onus for linebacker pass coverage, where does correcting that, the onus for that kind of fall, and particularly this week against a player like Jaden Ott, who they turn to a lot in the passing game, just how do you look to correct that when you know you're going to face another challenge in that area?
Yeah, recreating that in practice as much as possible, right? Making sure that we recreate those situations for our guys, consistently through the week, and then do a good job of, really making those tackles. I think we talked about even going back all the way to week one. What do you see? You see a lot of individual one-on-one tackles. When we can eliminate those opportunities and make more of those buddy tackles, right? That's what we're trying to do. We got to do a better job of that. And then when we do, in football, you got to make one-on-one tackles, right? And when that happens, you got to do a great job of it and have eye discipline. Teams will create confusion. We have to do a good job of evaluating that and assessing it.
Back right, Matt.
I think the most points anyone's this year scored on Cal is 31. Washington's explosive plays were way down. Just what do they do so well that limits points, limits explosion plays?
They don't give up explosives, right? They play with great layering in their defense. They're not a team that's sitting here taking a million risks, right? They play really sound. You're probably one of the most, the well-coached and sound defenses in our conference that we're going to see. I think they do a really good job, from that standpoint. And because of that, they don't give a lot of big plays.
Middle left here, Troy.
How would you describe the personality of your offensive line?
There's so many different character traits that really fit that group: intelligence, toughness, right? Brotherhood, right? They're a close knit group. There's a high belief. They're very coachable, right? You talk about wanting to be the best version of yourself. Coach Clem does a great job with those guys every single week in and week out. But those guys are willing to be coached, right? So many people shell up when they get coached, right? These guys, they accept coaching and look for opportunities to get better and embrace adversity. So it's exciting to see in a group.
All right, Zach.
I know you're more than just a defensive coach, but you obviously know that side of the ball well. When you have an offense that's this prolific, how much does that kind of make life easier on the defense, and how much does that open up the freedom on that side of the ball?
A bunch. I mean, it's nice. The name of the game is score more points than the other team, and the fact that we're able to do that right now at a high level is definitely a benefit. And like I said, this past weekend, we knew we were playing a good offense in UCLA. Like they score points, right? But the fact that we're scoring touchdowns and they're scoring field goals, it's gonna equate to a win at the end of the day. And at some point, it might not always go like that. But right now, our offense is clicking on all cylinders, and I think that'll continue.
Second row left, Eric.
You opened by talking about how the program's got great momentum and how who wouldn't want to play here. How much can a single weekend maybe play in a recruitment, and how kind of valuable is one unofficial or unofficial visit for a recruit sometimes?
When you get an opportunity to be on a stage, similar to what we were on this Saturday, you talk about the stars really aligning from a sense from the minute people woke up that morning, they knew and were evaluating Oregon football until that game was over with. And it became, really something that was in every living room across the United States. That's an opportunity to make an impact. And I think our fans lived up to a moment right there, right? They created an opportunity to make sure everybody knows. Because if you haven't been a part of this, if you haven't experienced it firsthand, you might not realize what Oregon football is all about and what this fan experience is all about. And what that does really for us from a recruiting standpoint is invaluable.
Front left, James.
Can you speak to on 3rd and 12 and 4th and 4, the two passes to Bucky, that you guys go without a running back and pass pro there because he breaks out, and the willingness to do that and how much of that is Kenny's aggression, how much of that is a tribute to the offensive line that you're that confident to do that in those passing situations, to leave Bo back there unprotected, and the confidence in them and him to execute, and then to see those results obviously were both huge plays.
Yeah, I think all those things play a factor. I mean, ultimately, I think any defensive coach would tell you it's harder to cover 5 than it is to cover 4. So when you get the back out in a pass route, it takes another person to be able to cover that. It also eliminates one more person they can bring, right? But Bo's smart enough and understands protections well enough to know, do we have enough hats up front to block him? He trusts the guys that are in front of him. When we can get 5 guys out in routes, we want to be able to do that. And in both those situations, those are situations, again, we knew before we got to that situation, we were already going to be going for it, and we have a play dialed up for it. So it's good to see our guys go out there and execute.
Back right, Matt.
They've got another team with another good receiver and Hunter. Just your thoughts on him and just your scouting of this offense. What are you going to face this week?
Yeah, they pass the ball a good amount, and I think they do a good job of getting the ball down the field, right? Their quarterback probably doesn't get enough credit. He's had one takeaway, I think, in the last 5 games. He's done they're doing a really good job of taking care of the ball, and he throws the ball really well. He's a talented thrower. So you got to cover him, got to handle him well in the back end, and I think they do a good job of pushing the ball down the field. They haven't hit a rhythm consistently this season, but when they do, they can be dangerous.
Middle left, Travis.
You touched on this a little bit, but what do you like about working with Coach Clem?
Yeah, our entire offensive staff. I mean, you love a guy that has experience, right? You talk about Coach Clem. He's a guy that's played in the NFL, right? He played at high level college football. He's been a college coach. He's been an NFL coach. He has an experience. So I think for our players, it's really nice to know that this isn't a guy that just says it, right? But it's also a guy that's done it, right? I think you see a big guy, right? But sometimes when you hear him talk, you're like, oh, it doesn't sound like he doesn't have to go out there and be a yeller and a screamer, right, to get the results that are necessary for his group, right? And that's appealing. I think he can be really straightforward with his guys, honest answers and clear, and I think that comes out in the way that they play. So having the offensive staff, the defensive staff, I can't give enough credit to our coaching staff that we have here and the job that they've done, and our players buying into that coaching staff for us to have success.
Moving over one seat, Eric.
You talked about veteran quarterbacks, some young guys downfield, but then also the running back, Ott, who I think has the highest single game rushing in the conference this year, like 278 yards or whatever that was a while ago. How difficult is it to prepare for when they have kind of both of those, I guess, assets that can go off in any single game like that?
Yeah, I like how you stole the mic there. That was smooth. Turnover 1. No, yeah, when you're playing a team that can do both, right, it really challenges you defensively. That being said, we have to be able to take away what they do best. So we're going to have to play to some of the tendencies, try to evaluate that as we go through the game. But they certainly have proven that they can, right? So that's something we're going to have to prepare for.
Now, Aaron.
Got it back.
Our names sound similar.
It's very similar.
It really does.
Look different.
I feel like a big theme in all sports is not playing down to your competition and coming off of game against UCLA team that was highly ranked, big game, coming in Austin Stadium, now going on the road the next 2 games, playing some teams that are lower in the conference. I know your team has improved every single week, but what are you looking for, especially after this next game, that's going to prove to you that your team is continuing to improve and not playing down to their competition?
I think anybody that turns on a TV on any Saturday night is going to realize that every week you can't predict college football, right? I'm watching film earlier today, and this game last year came down to the last 2 seconds on a 4th and 2 at the goal line, right? So we have to bring our best every single week to be able to perform to the level we think necessary and capable. Again, I've got a lot of respect for Cal. We're playing Oregon this week, right? We got to go get our best version of us. And be able to play really well. And we want to be playing better ball at the end than we are right now. So that's what we're looking for is growth, right? But this team is very capable.
James.
When you speak of Bo being elite, recognizing number counts and box counts and those things and making run checks and those things, exactly how much autonomy does he have on a play pre-snap basis, Dan? I mean, there's guys where it's one check or maybe there's a couple options, but how vast and how wide open is it for him given that he's more experience and been in a version of this offense before and has, a veteran offensive line, et cetera?
Yeah, we trust Bo, right? There was maybe one time I think we all gave him a hard time today about one of the checks he made, right? But we trust Bo, right? He's got great confidence in the system and he understands what we're trying to get accomplished. I think that's credit again to the coaching staff and the job that they're doing for preparing him. But he knows what looks we're looking for, and there's times where there's something we haven't really prepared for. But maybe 4 weeks before, but he remembers the check and why we had it, and he's able to utilize it within a game. So that's when you really are clicking on all cylinders, when you have somebody that can do that.
Back right, Matt.
Remember when you showed up as the head coach, you talked about recruiting and just you're a little bit behind the 2023 class because of the time you arrived. Fast forward now, you've had some opportunities to recruit underclassmen. Just how do you balance that of focusing on the 2023 class, but also giving ample time ahead to build those relationships for next year's signing day as well?
It's just got to be part of your everyday process, right? And again, there's recruiting and then there's relationships, and that's kind of the key. And I think our staff does a great job of building relationships, does a good job of evaluating talent, because I think that's the part that gets missed sometimes, right? You got to make sure you evaluate the right guys. I know there's a lot of guys that we were able to bring into our team when we got here that weren't here, and I don't know how many of them were really highly rated or touted or what that looks like. But I'll say this: every single guy that we brought in here, I'd take again. Right? I'm really excited about the guys that we're able to bring into our program. I think every one of us can recognize the value that those guys that we brought in, whether it be portal guys or freshmen, the value that they've added. So you want to be able to do a good job of that, and you have to do it every week to do that.
Eric.
I think Taki came off at one point in the second half. What's his status and availability going forward?
Yeah, still he got a little dinged up in his ankle. I think he's going to be able to go Saturday. We'll see.
James.
From your defensive perspective, just was curious, what exactly is the challenge from when Kenny employs the 12 unbalanced and it's the 5 to the one side, just what that does, particularly to the boundary, how much that messes with keys, and when you have that in there, and you guys really leaned on that, I think, more than before this past week, and to then also have a 21 personnel package and to alternate between kind of different extremes and that versatility of the offensive playbook.
Yeah, ultimately we try to keep the game really simple, and I think you go back to the BYU game. If we find something in a game that we have a rhythm and we think our numbers are right or maybe better, we're going to stay in that rhythm and continue to do it and lean on the strength of our offensive line and let our backs run. And that's really, I think, what you saw Saturday. We had a good numbers count out of a couple different sets. We're able to present it out of different personnel groups, and we're going to keep going back to it until the other team gets their numbers right.
Last question, James.
When third down defense was an area you guys were looking to address, how do you evaluate the result? Where do you look at more of the 4 for 4 on short or the 2 for 8 on 3rd and 5+, and how you go about adjusting, correcting, improving, etc.?
Yeah, both. You got to take the whole sample size, and then there's some third downs where we got a third down stop, but then they convert on fourth, right? So what's that equate to? Still a loss, right? So I think there were some much improved situations, and then some situations get better. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to figure out if you're in 3rd and 1, your chances of stopping them are a lot shorter than if they're in 3rd and long. So it goes back to still creating more of those moments. I thought we did some things better than we have done during the season so far up to this point, but still looking for improvement moving forward.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.